We are
YouTube it.
live on YouTube. And here we are. Hi.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good.
All right.
Welcome back to another edition
of Launch Radio,
Yes.
which is going to get transferred soon.
Yes.
Into Launch TV.
Yes, correct.
Working on some, right. We're going to have like a studio.
Yeah.
Guests. We're going to continue to do the audio, but I think it's fun to have a studio.
Yeah, I think it's fun. Where's your mask?
Oh, I forgot the mask today.
Have you been reading the news about the coronavirus? I mean, it's starting to get. We did the podcast a few weeks ago on it when it just was breaking, right? And then now it's like some interesting, serious things going on with it.
I mean,
and we're still not sure whether it's something we should be concerned about. Did you see the cruise ship people were stuck on the cruise ship for 2 weeks?
The cruise ship people were stuck. They were stranded out there. But I heard one family didn't want to get off the cruise ship.
Oh, I read that.
Did you hear about that?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, but now, so it continues to spread. Is it just like, is it everywhere now? I mean,
they said the problem is they don't know how quickly the incubation period is. So it's actually more deadly right now than the flu.
Really?
So though there may be more cases of the, you can die of the flu. It's actually more deadly because of how quick it is, and they're still trying to figure all that out. So I don't really have a lot of good information about it yet. Still,
a lot of mixed opinions.
And even if like we ourselves are not concerned about our health, the biggest problems that are coming out are companies. So all of these, all of these countries are having massive declines in tourism, which a lot of these countries thrive on, like Thailand. All these people are canceling their trips. Major ramifications as an economy standpoint. And the second thing is parts coming from the Asian countries are now causing massive issues. Like Apple just released yesterday, they're going to miss their quarterly profits because
in the factory, and they send products here. Are they sending the virus here too? Like, how does that? Is it contagious like that?
I don't think so.
Is it contagious? You can ship it overseas in a box. I mean, how does? Because you get it from like touching doorknobs.
I know. Well, the good news is for us here in Southern California, the people that got off the boat are being transferred here. So they're going to be in an incubation period for the next 2 weeks here in Southern California.
Wow.
So I almost feel like that is its own conspiracy theory, where it's just like, just ship everyone to Southern California.
They're all coming here. That first plane came here. It was a few weeks ago.
Right. Everyone just, for whatever reason, Southern California is where everyone is being shipped with their virus. And I'm like, I'm sorry, is there something we should know about?
Like they want to infect LA. We're all going to get it here first. And then, but the good news is.
It's not a thing I've ever seen. The good news is you have a mask.
I have a mask.
I have my zip-up hoodie, which worked out really well last time.
We love it. I mean, the zip-up hoodie, you have to see that episode. She was literally trapped in a hoodie. For most of the episode. And I just chatted. You can look at it on our coronavirus episode. We had that was quite an interesting thing. By the way, it looks like YouTube chat is down today, which is a shame. It says unable to connect to the chat, which is a shame. But it's not us. It's obviously something with YouTube.
Google.
I know Google.
We love you anyways, sort of. But today's topic is actually a very interesting one. It goes along with the okay boomer. Do you know this like okay boomer thing that's like going around like okay boomer?
Of course.
I think it's amazing and I find it hilarious.
And there's even variations on it. There's okay doomer.
Oh, I haven't seen that one.
That one. And I saw somebody with like a camera and they were zooming in and it was like okay Zoomer.
Oh Lord.
Okay. But okay, there were like 5 or 6 variations, but boomer and doomer were the big ones.
I haven't heard that one.
Yes, it was quite
okay,
big.
Zoomer.
Okay, Zoomer. But yes, boomer just kind of came out of the web.
It's amazing.
Online,
I think the one woman was standing up in an Australian parliament talking about climate change, and she heard a boo behind her from one of her constituents, and she's like, "Okay, boomer," and continued talking. It became like all the rage.
Right.
It was like, because she was a younger generation, and here you have this boomer who's like, here she is going about climate change. So it's almost like a way to shut up the generation. You know, it's like, okay, boomer, you're clearly an idiot. Like, okay, we get it.
And I feel like that is, you know, what it really got me thinking. I think you thinking. I think a lot of people thinking, and quickly, you know, putting people in a group like the boomers, the Gen X's, the millennials, and I what we wanted to talk to everyone about today is, except our YouTube chat's down. Sorry, guys. Is all of that real? Like, are these labels for the different generations? Does that really exist? There seems like there's some debate about it online. What do you think as far as it?
Yeah, I was in advertising for 12 years, and generations and buckets and putting people in categories is exactly how the advertising agencies go about promoting their product.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like I worked for the auto manufacturer, so when Toyota was looking to launch a redesign of a Prius, they would tell me, someone working for the publisher side,
mm-hmm.
saying, I want to find people who are green, who compost, very specific, who may be interested in getting married, but not right now. I mean, it gets like really detailed, and it would be like, here's the Gen X, here's the Gen Y, here's what, and they would bucket you, and that's how they advertise toward you.
It gives advertisers a way to find their demographics.
Correct. So it's all so it's like, here, I'm going to put you in this little, okay, you rent, you live in LA, this is who you are, this product would be good for you. And it's and it goes beyond advertising. Now, I worked with it, for my corporate career when I was doing it, but even beyond that, I think it's a load of shit.
Yeah.
And it's not because you and I are millennials, because millennials get the heat, where it's like, oh, they're lazy. The one book where it is like, I forgot the name of it, Millennials Now or something, or Millennials What?
Yeah.
Millennials Who? It's like, talking about how millennials and how do we market to them. It's like, we're not all narcissistic. We're not all the exact same.
Yeah.
So you bucketing us into categories just makes everyone very defensive, and it's inaccurate. There's a lot of studies that have been made that and done that we're no different than any other generation in our own age group.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So this thinking that like, we can bucket people in 20-year gaps, and because of the external environment of what's going on in that 20-year lifespan,
mm-hmm.
or that 20-year span,
makes those people
into this bucket.
Right.
And it's like, that's insane. That's not everyone experiences the world the same way. Just because the Gen Zs are growing up with technology doesn't make them inherently a different type of person and then lumped into one category.
Well, yeah, I think first off, to mass label everyone in a category and assume, which a lot of people actually do assume, that everyone in a given category is that way.
100%.
That it's everyone.
And you hear it all the time where it's like, they're a millennial. And it's just like, okay, boomer.
Okay,
Same
boomer,
thing, where it's like,
your generation. Yeah.
Is it detrimental that we're trying to pigeonhole everyone into these buckets that really are nonsensical when you think about it? You think a 20-year, the people that created this it wasn't that long ago,
right.
It was just a way for our brain to understand groups of people and to bucket them. Because our brain, the way our brain works, is we like to categorize.
Yeah.
It helps us understand the world.
Yeah.
So we categorize people.
Yeah.
And we've touched on this before, where it's labeling people.
Yeah.
A certain thing and saying, okay, you're a white male, you rent, you live, you must be X, and this is your personality. And it's like, does that encompass who you are?
Right. Yeah, totally. And I think that it's, first of all, these generations that are created, it's a result, part of it is a result of the generation prior to it creates things in the next generation because of how they are. Right. So there can be certain traits amongst some demographics that are similar from the prior generation, but that could because of how that generation treated them as a result of the times. So those traits exist, but to say that everyone's that way and to think that you're that way just because of the label is not good. Is not good analysis
for sure
of the situation.
And I've fallen into that trap.
And you really?
And I've had, like currently, my boyfriend is a Gen Xer, and I'm a Gen Y, and Gen Xers, tend to have this like work ethic and look down on Gen Ys as being lazy and entrepreneur, and we just kind of like flit around, whereas that's not really encompassing at all of who we are. And it takes away from our individuality when you think about it, So
our chat's back. Sorry, guys.
Oh.
We'll edit this out of the fun. Chat is back.
Chat's back. Hi, YouTube's back online. So
hi, Brian.
I know for me,
So
I think to be labeled anything, and what's interesting to me is, Gen Z. I think marketers are, for example, they don't like to be labeled.
Which one does?
Gen Z.
Okay.
So
the youngest generation.
Correct.
Okay. So real quick, and then I want to hear you say, yes. What are the decades that they consider each generation so people know?
Okay, so there's the silent generation.
Which is when?
That is from 1940, I want to say.
Okay, so they're the older.
They're the older. They're like our, let me open it up. So they are 1925 to 1945 is the silent generation. So that would be our grandparents. If you still have grandparents, Baby boomer would be 1946 to 1964, our parents.
Okay.
That's when everyone came back from the World War II, and the explosion of kids happened, and they were the baby boomers. So everybody was having kids once the silent generation came back from war. Gen X would be 1965 to 1980. Yeah. And then millennials go from 1980 to 95. And
81 to 95, yeah.
Right. And then Gen Z starts. So we are considered on the older side of millennials. And they've actually, because we're on the older side of millennials, they've actually created a subcategory for us because they feel that we don't really replicate millennials very well. We're a little different. Are there post-millennials? Have you heard that one or no? We're called the Zennials.
Zennials. Yes. That's what you and I would be.
Yes.
Which would be like the 1981 to 80.
Oh, our parents don't understand things. It's like, no, they've done multiple studies on this, and narcissism did more narcissistic than the Gen X's were. So
and the big point about this is, so we've got all these generations, and silent generation all the way to Generation Z. By the way, what's 2010 and beyond? Does that have a label yet? Or
that would be Gen Z.
That's still Gen Z from 1995 all the way.
Yeah, because it's 20 years. So let's say it's 20 plus.
Yeah, 2015. I wonder if there's a new one. I don't know, like in the last few years. I wonder if there's a label for that yet. I don't know. Anybody know?
They're running out of letters. They'd have to go back to A.
They'd have to,
right?
I mean, they would.
We were at Gen Z, and then
we'll go to Generation AB, and then ABC.
Roman numerals.
Roman numerals. But we're gonna go to Roman numerals.
Can you imagine?
But I think that so any of those generations across that whole spectrum, can have these traits. I mean, I think that's the big point you're making now. Now, because of certain things, the times and what was happening at the time, there can be traits that people have so to go through life thinking that you have to think that way or that you are that way because people label millennials as narcissistic or as, too focused on themselves or too
lazy or whatever.
That's just none of that is true. and people are often too hard on themselves about these things, and it actually has been proven in studies. I mean, I read this in that article we both read today, that different data, and this is universally true actually, but the data is different depending on what the study is, right, as far as which generation is what. Like literally they've tried to really sum this up and get the bucket label, like this is it, and they can't get it. If you really research it, they can't get it because different studies say different things. So everybody's kind of just dumbfounded, and we have these sweeping labels of 2-decade intervals.
And they changed the years. Millennials used to be like 80, 81, 82, so we were on the cusp, yeah. And now it's 80.
So we don't even know what the year is. I mean, let alone the
characteristics of every single one, you know?
That's right.
So it's really pigeonholing people into buckets in order to then label them so that our brain can handle their uniqueness. When it comes to Gen Z, though, what marketers, McKinsey report is a massive report that all the marketers read, and they come out with it and they're like, okay, this is what the Gen Z is. Yeah. And what they say is
McKinsey report?
Yeah, McKinsey report is like a marketing report. And what they say is that Gen Z hates labels. So they don't want to be considered male or female. They don't want to be considered in a monogamous relationship or a poly or an open. They don't want to be considered bi or gay or lesbian, whatever. They just want to be. So marketers are going to have a serious issue saying, okay, so we want to market to homosexuals for this product, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, try and figure that out, because Gen Z actually hates labels and is avoiding all of that.
Avoiding all labels. So Generation Z is the anti-label generation.
Yes.
They've been labeled the anti-label, which is kind of funny in and of itself, because everybody's like, all the older people are like, well, we don't know what to think about this generation because they just don't like labels at all. So, but again, it's a sweeping generalization. Now, someone says, I think the labels are meant for North America, countries in 3 states. Let's see, he said, I think the labels are meant for North America. Countries in third world and or police states, I think, would have different attitudes, media influence.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point, because in my research, when I was researching the topic, it's true. Yeah. North America is really the only one that utilizes these, like, oh, you're Gen Y, you're Gen Z, because every other country really doesn't utilize that. We're the only one that really buckets people and labels them into specific generations, whereas other countries don't really.
So especially in the USA.
Yeah, the US is really big on, like, you're this and you're this.
I wonder if it's why we do. Why do you think that we have the need to label these age ranges, these decades, just like we have any label, just whether it's politics or whether it's sexuality,
and we've touched on it before, where it's like, by you saying you're Republican, I know everything about you. By me saying I'm or someone else Democrat, I know everything about you. It's for us in the US, we like the labels, because then we can say, okay, I can pigeonhole you into everything that I know about that specific category. And for whatever reason, other countries don't see it that way.
I wonder if our advertising, as we said at the beginning, if it's rooted in advertisers and marketing.
100%. I think it's always, even like when you look at the Sears catalog, old school Sears catalog, where you would order, like, you're either from the.
When I think about what could be the cause of it, or one, marketing and advertising, and two, kind of a some frustration or anger amongst an age range, like maybe parents frustrated with their kids say, oh, it's just the generation,
right.
Or kids frustrated with their parents say it's that generation. So because of when you were born, I think it sometimes can, if you're on a team, then you can label the other generation to be something else.
Yeah, it's just an age. Like, for example, millennials, when they were doing the studies, are no different when it comes to jobs and careers and moving around as Gen Xers were at their age.
Yeah, I saw that.
So there's nothing, millennials are, and so, if you think about it, this really changes how HR approaches their own millennial group, how you talk about certain people, how you market to them. But it's very interesting that we're always, the millennials are always labeled as lazy, and we're always flitting around our jobs, and we hate our jobs, job satisfaction's down. Whereas meanwhile, you put however old we are, reaction is going to be less when you're younger than you are when you're 42 or 45.
Yeah. But I saw in that article, it said something about that millennials are less happy, like someone who's 22 is much less happier in their job than someone who's 42, because the person who's 42 has been around in their job and they're happy and they've established it. And that's a generational thing, that like millennials aren't naturally as happy in their jobs because maybe they're 22 and the older person is 42. Where does that even, you could get data that says the direct opposite of that. I know a lot of 42-year-olds who are absolutely miserable in their job because they want to get out of the job. Like they've been in their job so long that they want out of it. So this article said that there was a study that said that all people who are 42 are happy because they are happy with their jobs because they've been doing it a while. There's data that says they're satisfied in their jobs is one way to put it, versus like you could say just as much that they're not satisfied at all and that they like job having. So either way goes, the data can speak either way, depending on who you're and who you're talking to within that age range. So it's letting your version of the facts of reality define what the facts are for you.
It's so interesting to me though that we all subscribe to it. It's like we don't even question it. It's just like we were fed this information, like, okay, whoever told you, you're a millennial, and then you're just like, okay, for whatever reason,
we're all pretty dumb when it comes down to it. I mean, I
just have a feeling it's a very U.S. thing where we don't, because dating someone that's not from the U.S. and from a different country, he's really shocked all the time that we like just blindly, like zombies, follow what we're told to do here.
Yeah,
or we don't really like ask or look at something differently. We just like, okay, the government's telling me this, or the marketing team, whatever. I'm just gonna
let it out. I think ultimately what's going to plug this in. I don't want it to die. Is that? I'll keep talking. I think.
Don't mind us, Bowie.
Don't mind us, you guys. Just don't want the laptop to die.
There we go.
Got it? Cool. We'll end that. We're having fun. We're live. I think ultimately what a big cause of it, as discussed a second ago, is the marketing and the advertising, and also angst between, age groups. And I think ultimately what's going to help solve that is back in the day before we had technology and Amazon and different internet advertising to us, they had to get TV ads and they had to get newspapers out to people, and they couldn't focus as much on you, the individual, because they had to do it by hand. It had to be groups, and it had to be.
It's too expensive. What, you're going to market to each
one
individual person?
They weren't able to do that.
You have to bucket them.
So I think if you look at we'll say generationally, I'm not labeling, but just saying across everybody. Right. If you look at that, because they had to market, they had to kind of find groups that they could do it to, because it's the only way that they could get the message out. But now with technology and with AI, they're able to, for better or worse, some people like it, some people don't, but they're able to track where you're going,
correct,
and what you're interested in, and what you're Google searching for, and then they can focus your interest and your advertising on, obviously, and we've discussed this on their podcast, they can focus what your interests are completely.
Apologies, but that was my job, was that you're always going to see advertising. Do you want it to be relevant to you, or do you want it to be like what you have a higher propensity or a higher chance of that person being interested in your product because you followed the right person?
Mm-hmm.
Is it right? I'd rather have ads that are geared toward me than ones that make zero sense. Do you remember when the internet first started?
Yeah.
And it was the first ads that were out were massive pop-ups. Like there's no rhyme or reason. You just hit it.
Yeah.
With your mouth, with a click of the mouse or whatever we used at that time.
Remember
do you remember that?
Vaguely,
like just hit the monkey, and it was like Target. And you're like targeting the person, like the monkey on the ad. And you're like, what the hell? So ads from like revolutionized, and have completely gone full circle to like into what we have now. Where it's really, really designed into who you are.
Right.
Like Instagram. My God, how many times have I clicked on an Instagram ad for rings or jewelry or whatever that are like exactly what I would want?
They show me magic shows. That's always my ads is magic shows. They think that I'm a magician on Instagram. I actually like them. They got me because I always click on the magic shows. I've been like buying magic because so next week I'll do a magic trick. But I'm looking into magic now because of the AI. What's the other thing they market me? They really market magic a
That's
lot,
hilarious. I wonder why. What are you clicking on Instagram that's like?
I don't know. Maybe they just. I think this is a fascinating concept. If like the AI can kind of like mishmash all of what your like interests are into this like potion and be like, here's something that's interesting you, and it's taking like spoonfuls of your mishmash of interests and saying, here's one. Like, here's one. That's coming.
That's coming.
That's coming. It's already here.
Potions.
The potion. So one of her potions is what is it, like rings or something?
Jewelry or like clothes, that I'm like, oh, I would wear that. Click on it, and I've bought stuff from the advertising that I see, which is I would have never done that in the past.
That's right.
But the advertising is getting so wicked smart
and
bucketing me into like, oh, she would like this because I'm following her everywhere on the internet and I can see what she likes, and I bet she would like this too.
That's right. So the AI is getting smarter.
Potion.
It's creating potions
and that rabbit
of you.
Pops out.
Like here's a Geoff interest potion with a rabbit and stuff. But it's doing that, and that's coming. And then what's interesting about that though is because marketing is changing, that could to a degree get rid of long term, not tomorrow, but in 10 years from now, that could get rid of the generational label because marketers can market to the individual.
Correct. From an agency, which is a request for proposal, and it's an RFP for like an upfront, which is when they plan all of their money. They spend like $10 million in advertising. A tiny company would be spending 10 million. Let's see, bigger, would be spending up to billions, right? They give you an RFP. You fill it out, and in this RFP, it's pages and pages of demographic they're looking for, and the target audience, household income of X, millennial, Gen X, whatever. They label every single target they want.
So there you go.
So then, as a publisher, you go in and present your ideas to them. But as Google and as Facebook and a few others, I'm sure, they don't say, okay, we'll go after your target audience. We're actually going to get even smarter. We don't go after targets. We go after the individual because we follow that person via cookie or whatever, avoiding the PII information, which is personal identifiable information. And it's an algorithm. It's all algorithmic, in the way things work. Facebook and the way they track you is different than what Google uses.
So who's got the most accurate tracking
Google
algorithm? That's what's going to be the question. Google's the most accurate.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think that's what's coming is they're going to be able to focus on the individual more, and that's going to get rid of some of these mass labels. But I think because they already are, we haven't caught up yet, and that's why we forgot the 2015 label because we're like, oh, humans. You forgot the 2015 label. So 2015 to 2020, all those babies yet? If we don't have a label yet, it's because we forgot.
Right.
We just forgot. The AI is much smarter. And then we're like, oh,
maybe
we
better create a label.
Maybe they don't have a label. Maybe we're already past it. If they have a label on Wikipedia, if anybody knows what's 2015 to 2020, babies now. But I think that eventually is going to go away. Because
I still like okay boomer. generational labeling is a hoax.
We both agree on this one. It is a hoax. I would say it's mostly a hoax. I would say there's traits, but you can't universally label someone because you see
piece of it.
A little bit, yeah.
You're a Leo, right?
I'm a Leo. I used to really be an astrologist. I used to have a big interest in it. But you know, I don't really, the past 6 or 7 years, I've read a lot about it, and I don't think it's as true. We create
the labels of like, yeah. And sometimes it, you know, when you meet someone, you're like, you don't seem like a Scorpio at all. That's so weird.
Yeah.
And the person's like, yeah, I don't think I am.
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, that's because your moon sign is this.
So then you got to back up.
You're like, oh, yeah, there's always a reason.
The rising sign.
Just like millennials, we were so affronted that we were being called all of these horrible names as a millennial, so that now they call us Zennials, the older generation. So it was like a backup of like, okay, you don't really, you're in your own little group, just to satisfy us and make us like calm down, because we were all like very like how dare you?
Right. It's that.
It's the exact same thing. It's like, oh, okay, we'll stop pushing you into that category. So we'll make it your own little category.
Right. We'll give you a backup piece. And what would be really fun is to like tell. I've actually done this before. Is to like ask someone what, like, okay, so you're a Gemini, okay, and then get an astrology book, and then read them from Taurus. And they'll be like, yeah, that's me, yeah. And then at the end, you say, I'm just kidding, it's Gemini. And then, you know, they'll go ahead and say, oh, the moon or something, back up or something.
But yeah, my Mercury.
You find yourself in all of these, I think is.
I believe a little bit of it. Just like the generations, yes. External environment and what happens, like we all grew up with the internet. Mm-hmm. So yes, our external environment, we all had a shared commonality as it pertains to certain events that have happened in our life. Vietnam War, all the baby boomers were involved, you know, had some kind of impact in that, right? Mm-hmm. However, good stuff that comes out.
But
baby boomers are hippies and druggies.
Yeah.
The silent generation are people that just like are zombies and didn't question anything. And then you've got the millennials who are a hot mess, according to everyone. And then the Gen Zs are growing up to, you know, I'm not a boy or a girl. I'm just a human. And you're just like, what the hell? You know, like.
I try to take the negative and turn it into a positive. Like, you're only interested in technology, but only being interested in technology can be a good thing. So even when they label you, you can turn the negative.
It's true.
Into a positive.
You know what my mom calls that? Flip the pancake.
Flip the pancake.
So when you're thinking something negative in your life or something, you always flip the pancake. Think of something more positive.
Put a different lens on it.
Yeah. Flip that pancake. It's going to look differently. She's going to be so mad that I said this because she wants to like trademark it and write a book about it. So no one steal that idea.
Flip the pancake. Like, yeah, don't steal.
She doesn't watch the show, so she won't even know. Do your parents still watch the show?
If I send it to them.
I know. What's the deal? Stupid baby boomers don't know how to do anything.
Gosh, these baby boomers. I mean, come on.
They're all like, I don't know where to find. Even Gen X was like, I don't know where to find your link. I hate the. I'm like, dear God, we posted on everything. Like, what do you mean you can't find the show?
It's
and
everywhere.
Then it's very easy to be like, okay, your generation sucks with technology. I'm sorry, but like, you guys are dumb.
Well, that's one of the millennial labels is technology. They're too into technology. They're always on their phone. They're always, that's such a, but again, I will say the traits, that is true, but that's the time that a lot of millennials, as the label, were growing up in, was that when they were growing up in. So, but to label that they all would be that way is just a false.
I do feel bad, though, for the older generations, if we're to use that word, for the older people.
Mm-hmm. You mean like beyond the silent generation?
I mean like baby. No, they would be dead.
They're all dead. I guess they are all dead. When they're
25.
60. Oh yeah, and they'd be really old. Yeah,
they'd be in their hundreds.
They'd be 100. So the one generation before boomers is 100.
Yeah, I don't feel bad for them. They're just basically comatose. I feel bad for like our parents.
Yeah.
Because of like how I feel like the baby boomers and silent era are a little closer if we're to put them in buckets.
Oh, for sure.
Whereas like our generation grew up with this technology.
Mm-hmm.
And like our parents, a lot of them, vast majority, are like fucking clueless with it.
Mm-hmm.
Into the Gen X.
Yeah.
Because they didn't grow up with the technology. Whereas they're like, I don't know how to do this. And they're like trying to create businesses and try to create their own websites. And they're like lost. You say cookie to them and they're like, what? You know, or cash it or a GIF or any of that. It's blowing their fucking mind.
And I think that's because, so like that's one of those traits though, right? Like they're that way because of the times. So
because the times, not because of the generation. So it's unfair of us to be like, what I just said jokingly, where I was like, oh, your generation doesn't know shit about technology. That's because they didn't grow up with it.
Yeah.
So you can't get frustrated with them when they don't know what they're doing because they literally didn't grow up with it. They don't know. They were playing outside. But it's fair to say for that boomer to be like, I don't know. I don't know what I don't know. You know, and you got to have a little bit of empathy for people that are older than you because guess what? When we get turned 60, we're going to be in a fucking chaos of not knowing what the hell's going on. And we're going to be like, the younger generations are like, I don't know. How do we do this?
So, right. So we got to have more empathy for that. And I think that's going to come around. And I think that the marketing is going to change because of AI. And I also think that we're going to realize that time doesn't exist. That will change things. I wanted to do the, blow Kira's mind real quick when I say time doesn't exist because, stuff like that, she doesn't quite know what to think. Because time doesn't exist. They're learning that more and more.
I don't have time to take a nap today, Geoff.
Everything's in the
don't blow my mind too much.
Everything's in the present. That's going to be learned more and more. But I think that that's going to be a contributor. And I think overall, we were talking about astrology and comparing that to it. I think that comparison is definitely there. I don't think that personality tests apply because a personality test, remember when we did 16 personalities episode? That's individualized. So that is actually good. It's better.
It's better. It's still bucketing people into
it's still bucketing
you're
people.
Type A, you're a type, you're a type whatever the F, and it's like, okay, I've taken it several times. It changes every time. And I feel like I relate to every single one of those. Then you're like,
it actually, that's a really good point because what I would say is it still is labeling you across a label.
I'm a wizard. And you're like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to be a statistician and a logic person. And you're like, I'm all of these things though. Why do I have to be labeled into things?
But at least, that's right. But at least it's giving you, at least you have some input.
Correct. You have
so that you can then get the
not
label.
Just because you were born a certain year and you're like, and you're this and you're a terrible person because of that.
That's right.
Like you have no ramifications when someone's like, you were born in 1979, so that puts you in this. And then you're like, but I don't want to be there. That's not me. It's like, no, that's who you are. And you're like, I can't control when I was born. That's not fair. But
that's right. And so that's exactly right. And so what's going to happen eventually though, this is so interesting because even 16, your personality, we're talking about like ENTP, INFJ, different personality tests, external, internal, that's still labeling across what's going to happen eventually is that's still a label. So it's progress, a label you're involved in, but it's going to get to the point where just for you,
highly customized for you,
very for
individualized.
You, not even a personality across something. Like we're better with personalities, but not all the way there. So it'll be able to create, like right now we have types of music. We have country music
genres
and rap and everything else. It'll be able to create a song for you that morning when you wake up, a song that is for you. That might not even fit in any label-y type of music. Just the song created for you.
Do you feel, it's funny, my mom, whenever she's like, what kind of music is like a Miley Cyrus? I'm like, is she like alternative or rock? I'm like, what? who labels music anymore? Like this is pop, this is rap, this is like, you go to radio stations, like this is your hip hop, but then it has rap, and the radio stations can't even like say that this is like they put it into like years. On Sirius, it's like together. 90s, 80s, 70s, because that's when it came out.
Wow.
So like,
so we've gone to decades.
We've gotten rid of like alternative rock, because the music is starting to like, Diplo does country music. Wow. Do you know what I mean? And that's insane. He's a DJ. So then where do you put him in this category? So things are starting to get away from it in terms of the label. My question is, by individualizing every little, connect with other people around us, because we're so individualized and so in our own little bubble that we actually can't feel a community of people. Whereas when you say a generation, or I like alternative music, or I like goth music, you're part of the community, whether you like it or not. Mm-hmm. Whereas the minute you individualize something, you're now disassociating with everyone around you because they're so individualized.
Right.
And it's so custom to you.
That's right.
So is that going to be a problem as it pertains to how we connect with other people and creating like a community?
I think it's a very interesting question that people should think about.
Because as human social beings, mm-hmm. if we start to individual, and we absolutely have to have a community, and then we wonder why we're lonely because we don't have a close-knit community, right? So the minute you start individualizing your entire life, from music to every little thing,
it gets rid of the labels.
You get rid of how you're there because as a human, AI is amazing, but the problem is we haven't evolved as humans. We're still biologically need certain things.
But maybe by individualizing, it will teach humans to appreciate the community that much more.
That's fair. That's a good point, because it may actually create like I'm unique.
This is me, and I'm proud of myself.
Right.
And I can.
My son has no interest or knowledge of new world order, quantum physics,
physics,
spirituality, even the global threats of nuclear war. School dumbs his generation down. Well, yeah. I mean, we all know the U.S. is like, we're like below third world countries when it comes to education here. So, they're really interested in YouTube.
Yeah.
And what YouTube pushes out. I am a little concerned about Gen Z.
We'll become more individualized.
How do you teach 40 kids in a class the exact same thing when they're all very different, unique people, and their brains work differently? And I think when we get away from all these categories that we're pigeonholing everyone in, the more we'll be able to really define and find our individuality.
It's all a hoax.
Don't buy into it.
The vast majority, there's traits, but labeling people across the generation is like
detrimental.
No go.
Right.
So anyway,
episode 34, Launch Radio.
Jeff and Kira here at Launch Radio. We are the future, and the future is Launch Radio. Thanks, guys. See you guys soon. Peace. All right. That one.